Good morning, everybody.
Good
Good to see you this morning.
Morning.
And we have John Arthur here with us this morning. And Bill is at the Richmond train show, and he'll be popping in a little bit later to give us kind of a sneak peek at what how his layout's being looked at the show. And anyway, we got everybody, a full house. Shannon's even here this morning. So run and hide while you got a chance. Steve, you want to do the rundown?
Cowboy is taken here.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. We got our buddy Chuck, GDP. It's good. Really good to see you. Lynn McCurdy, Stephen Wigway. We got Allison. Brian. Good morning, Brian. How are you doing? Dave, DES Multimedia. We got Gail in chat. We got Mark Pruitt. Good morning, Bernard. Lynn McCurdy. And I think that I know there's more. I always miss somebody. But anyway, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you.
Good morning, everybody. And John is a friend of Bill's. Bill's the one that kind of told me about John, and I got a hold of John, and he agreed to come on the show. So we're going to inundate him with questions and do all the. Well, I'm gonna do the one that I always do first. How'd you get started in the hobby?
Yeah, so as a young kid, my grandfather had Lionel trains and HO trains that went between two bedrooms in his house with a bridge that went over the stairs. We would run trains back and forth. He had a control pack in each room. And so from as far back as I can remember running Lionel trains with my grandfather. We also had a little hill, like a mountainy type situation with just a couple of simple loops of HO scale track in one of the rooms, kind of set up above the O gauge. So it, looked like it was in the distance. And so from a really young age, there's pictures of me barely able to sit up and, staring at a train going around, sitting on grandpa's lap kind of thing. So as far back as I can remember, I've been a train guy. Yeah,
that seems to be the main consensus of most people that are in the hobby. They were at least around it as a kid.
Yep.
And I know same thing happened with me pretty much. But
yeah, and my dad was into trains too, but we moved around a bunch, especially when I was little. So, a couple of times we had a little 4x8 something getting started, and then we'd have to move. But we always had trains up at Christmas at the house. So I got it both at home and at Grandpa's house.
Yeah. And so I see part of your layout there above your head.
Yep.
So is this like a shelf around the room kind of layout, or?
It's mostly shelf. There will be a peninsula. I'm still under construction, but what you see behind me it's only about right here is only about 10 inches wide, 12 inches wide, and it's all done. The scenery is completely done right there. But there are other parts of the layout that aren't even built. A couple reasons for that. One, I wanted to have my workbench. So sort of the first thing I wanted to get set up when I moved to this space was the workbench. So before I could really, start working on kits and stuff, I wanted to make sure the layout above it was done. And then it's a U-shaped turn back that's behind me. So I got track that's going up this way. My yard's over on this side of me, and the peninsula will be on that side. So I like to build it kind of in stages. I might have bench work going on the far end, then a little bit of track work happening. And as you work your way back, then the scenery gets more and more complete, so I can keep it fresh. So I don't want to just do bench work for 2 years and do nothing but bench work and then do nothing but track work. This way it allows me to keep it fresh. The drawback is I've been working on this for about a year and a half now in this space. And I've got maybe 15 to 20 feet of track that actually I can run a train on, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really do anything yet. So that's the drawback of building this way.
I totally understand that predicament.
Yes.
I
Are you
kind of
on
did
the
the same
train?
thing with mine, but or similar, because I wanted to get the mountain in the middle of the room done first because it was going to be covered, helix covered up, and so it got done first, and it's mostly scenic, and then it's now spread out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Are you able to run trains, John?
I can, yes.
Okay.
I can. There. I can kind of get out of the way, and hopefully this isn't too shaky. But so that scene behind me is that's the turn back loop above the workbench, and as I pan this way, you get into the yard. So here's my paint booth is right here. Still kind of workbench going around this way, but that's my yard. And then you get down that way, and that's where the scenery kind of ends. In fact, the track ends. And I just recently, from that seam there past the little brick building going that way, is all new backdrop. And then I've
Looks
stitched
good.
in, there's a scene straight ahead over there that's completely scenic. That's stitched in benchwork wise, but there's no track yet to connect that scene over there back to the yard over here. So that's kind of where I'm at now and what I'm working on. If I pan this way,
So, John,
yeah,
if I understand right, you are going to loop completely around the garage, and the
Yes.
peninsula is more or less in the center.
correct.
What are your future plans for what you haven't even got benchwork for yet?
Sure. So going off the end of that scene I just showed, there'll be another 80-inch section or so, and then it'll turn back kind of parallel. If you think of it like essentially an O with a peninsula in the middle, and I've started on one side of the O and one side of the peninsula. That's all I've got done right now.
What kind of elements are going to be involved in the rest of the layout, as far as concept? Is there going to be another yard?
Gotcha. So I'm modeling Richmond, Virginia. That's going to be the only yard. It's South Yard. That's a real yard that existed where the Seaboard Airline main line, there was on the James River, big ships could come up as far as what's called Deepwater Terminal, just outside of town. And we're 100 plus miles inland from the coast. So at the time, there was a pretty major, there was a port there and a quarry and different industries on what I'm going to treat as a Seaboard Airline owned branch line. So that's the reason the yard is there. In real life, I've blown it out a little bit. Mine's actually bigger than the prototype because I'm kind of inventing other local industries as well as that branch line. There's a part of the city called Manchester that's just south of the river as well. To me, that's at the northern end of what I'm modeling. And that will have another branch with a bunch of local industries on it. Some real, some completely fabricated. Like, for example, my wife's soap company is on that branch line that, of course, won't exist for 70 years and has never gotten to the point where we needed rail service. There's 10 or 15 years ago, a buddy of mine and I were home brewers and kind of got into the home brewing bug. And so I have a brewery over there. That's the name of the company we wanted to found a long time ago that never actually happened. So that's in Manchester as well. So
you're a little
stuff
bit
like
of
that,
both.
totally made up, but things that would fit, and I'm modeling it in brick structures that would fit in a warehouse district in the 50s. So it looks right, but it's made up.
So the time frame is the 50s,
Late 50s, yes sir.
late 50s. Okay.
Yeah.
And what road name? What road do you do?
Seaboard Airline is my main road. I've also taken the liberty. So at the time, in the late 50s, Richmond, Virginia had 5 Class 1 railroads that went through town and a 6th that wasn't far away. So we had the C&O, the Seaboard, the Southern, the Atlantic Coastline, and the RF&P all here. And so I've invented, there are crosses, major junctions and such of all those railroads. What I've done, because I don't have really the room for proper interchange tracks, is I will run foreign power from some of those railroads from staging onto my layout because I have it and I like the variety and I'll be able to interchange between the railroads, but it'll all happen in the yard.
Cool.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I have a
sounds
version
good. Like
of
you got
this
some.
completed. The room that's directly above me was a spare bedroom, and I had a version of it. Largely, all the track work was done, and I was operating. and then I had to, you had to free up the room for, it's my home office now and a guest room. And so I've moved to the garage. So a lot of what I'm stitching together is pieces of that old road, but I have more space now. So I've kind of blown it out a little bit and added some things. And that's why I'm doing bench work again.
So any of the track hand lead turnouts?
It's all Atlas Code 83,
Okay.
my flex track, HO scale. And my turnouts, there are some Walthers number 5s and 6s, but a lot of micro engineering as well. I used on the yard ladder, and I would recommend anyone building a yard, if I can move this around, let's see if I can get a good shot of the yard ladder here. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
That is the micro engineering ladder track system.
That's
and
nice.
I would recommend that. It worked great.
You save a lot of room with it, right?
You sure do. So that's all micro engineering along the ladder. And then where the locomotive is sitting, there's a double crossover there to get from the main to the arrival departure tracks, which are the 2 tracks nearest me that are ballasted. And it also gets from the main over to the switch lead, which is the track on the left going around the bend over there. So another way to save space, so I didn't have to have 2 crossovers there, was, sorry for the shaky camera here, that double crossover. While it was a little bit of a pain to get wired up and in, once it was in, it saved me 2 or 3 feet of running room there.
Right. Hey, Bill's back. Bill, what's new over there?
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill, if you're talking, we cannot hear you.
You might not know he's on.
It
Looks like
he
he's talking
doesn't
to
know
someone.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he doesn't have another sticker underneath going, "Hi, I'm Bill."
We can't
Bill,
hear
you're
you.
muted.
Can't hear you.
You're still muted.
Yeah, it's probably StreamYard.
Yeah, but Bill doesn't know that, does he?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Well, I got to get to the show tomorrow. Look at all that stuff.
And of course, Claude isn't even in the stream because we had to drop him out to get Bill in.
Bill, we cannot hear you. I think he said bye.
We're professional here at Back on Track.
Hey, it was some good footage of the show. It was good footage
Yeah,
of the show.
that was good footage, regardless of whether or not we could hear him.
If anyone can read lips, please let us know what Bill was saying.
Oh, John, one thing I was going to ask, you showed your backdrop, and it looks like one that Joey Ricard sells at Trackside Scenery. Is that who it is?
That is correct. Fellow Virginian. He lives.
Yeah, I knew he's
his
up.
shop is out in the mountains, a couple hours away. So I haven't been out there, but yeah, I get them from him. I saw them on Tim's channel, the Seaboard Central, and thought, oh my god, those look amazing. I wanted. Finally, he said where they were from, or I might have asked him. And so I reached out to Joey, and yeah, that's.
Yeah, because I looked at his stuff, but it's all East Coast, Pennsylvania,
Right.
Virginia, that kind of stuff. So not quite what I was after, but
Sure.
he does have a nice product there for that.
He does, and I was just working with. I haven't put the video out yet. It'll probably come out next week, where I'll get into more detail. But I tried something new. So Tim on Seaboard Central also had to move his layout. I think he relocated, moved into a new home in the last year or two, and I noticed all his backdrops. He was taking them off, and they were all staying whole. So how are you doing that? So what he does is he mounts them to 040 styrene first, and then puts that up. And I was just gluing mine straight to the masonite. So when I had to move, most of the backdrops I bought, I had to cut them, tore them out. Like you can't tear it as paper. Once it's glued on, it's glued on. And so I ruined a whole bunch of stuff moving it. So these new sections I just added, I bought 030 styrene just so it's a little bit thinner. And that worked great. I just put it on with 3M double-sided tape. I glued it to the styrene with Super 77, I think is what it's called. And then the styrene onto the masonite with double-sided tape. Went on great, really easy. I'll never have to tear one of these things apart. I'm sure there's a move again in my future somewhere. So,
what's the size? What's the height size of your 030 styrene?
Yeah, I got 18 inches high by 60 inches long.
And where did you get that at?
Wow, 60
I found an outfit online where you could buy styrene by the 4x8 sheet, and they cut it for me there and shipped it. So it wasn't the cheapest way to do it, but they shipped me all the drops too. So I essentially, not only do I have my backdrops, but I also have a lifetime supply of 030 styrene sheet to do whatever I want with.
Stuff with.
Yeah.
Is that very thick?
030?
30 thousandths.
Yeah, it's thicker than, it's not as thick as like a Walther's kit.
Can you do scratch builds with it?
Sorry?
Yeah.
You can do scratch builds
Absolutely.
with it.
Sure. As long as you brace it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Got a bunch of kits.
Yep. Well, John, I got to say, I put mine up. Mine are on vinyl, heavy duty vinyl backdrops. And I used the 3M two-way tape.
Yeah.
And I've got some information for you on that. When you go to take it off, it's not going to be easy.
Well,
the stuff sticks pretty good.
I've actually, are you talking, so between the masonite and the styrene, it pops off fairly. I've already taken some, maybe it gets worse if it sits there.
Well, I use the heavy duty two-sided tape. They do make a lighter one that probably comes off a little easier, but of course I'm trying to get vinyl, thick vinyl off versus the styrene sheet too.
This stuff, not the foam stuff.
Yeah. See, mine's more the industrial type. But
I have some of that too. But again, I was trying to keep the profile really low. And so I used the thinnest stuff I could get. I had that laying around from putting signs on buildings and stuff like that.
Well, you probably don't have near as much problem then.
I hope not.
Good job. Most of your kits on your layout are from who?
All different stuff. So as I think about it,
Scratch
I'll do another pan if you guys want. There's a little bit of a farm scene kind of right here. That's a Foss Scale Models. That's Bar Mills. If I come around this way, the bridge kind of over my shoulder is Rick's. The ice house in the foreground here. This structure is Fine Scale Miniatures. The brick buildings in the back are Downtown Deco. These next brick buildings are plastic structures. It's DPM on the right. And then the oranger one is, I've got it right here, actually. Rail Scale Models. There's a gentleman I talked to at Timonium a year ago and bought a few of his kits. So those are both kit bashes to turn them into that long structure.
Are they plastic kits?
Those two are, yes.
Okay.
And then as I go, that Reby Supply, that's just in the backdrop. In fact, Reby is my grandfather's last name.
Oh, really? That's in your backdrop?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that looks great. I thought it was on your layout.
No, that's the back. That Reby Supply Company is in the backdrop. That is Joey for no charge. It used to say like Mill Valley Company or something like that, or Valley Supply Company, and for nothing, Joey just flipped it out. I asked him, I was like, what would it cost for a little bit of custom stuff? And he just did it. So I guess it was easy for him, but yeah, he can do custom stuff like that if you want.
That is
the
nice.
fence in front of it is real. Like that's Titchy. So that's actually not in the backdrop, the fence in front of it. That building there to the side of the road, this building over here is in the backdrop. And then I'm into that's a casting I made where I was just experimenting with different paint colors for a large warehouse that's going to go there.
So you made that?
I did.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
Thanks.
Looks good.
Yeah, it's a casting of a downtown deco part.
So you just made a cast of what you had.
I did. Although I
That's a
learned
cool
something there.
idea.
The latex molds shrink. And so I made the mold last summer, did a casting or two that worked well, but I'm building the layout going from this way, left to right. So I'm working my way that way. So I wasn't there yet. I didn't do anything else with it. I got to that section recently, and lo and behold, the building's a little shorter. Like, well, no big deal. I'll just pour a couple new castings, cost almost nothing to make new castings once you've got the mold. And I went online and I ordered all the right windows for it. And then guess what? The window opening shrank too. And to open them up would have been a lot of work, and I would have got into the windowsills. It wouldn't have looked right. So I bought the right things from Downtown Deco, and I used the casting to learn to paint with. Lesson learned. That's what we do, right? We make mistakes. That's how we learn. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But as far as the concept goes, if you would have poured all of the castings you needed at that time,
it would have been fine.
It would have worked flawlessly.
It would have worked fine.
That should not be missed in all of your efforts. You know, for anyone watching your channel, that was my takeaway: is that it's absolutely a good way of approaching something. You just have to remember that, you know, pour what you can now. Maybe not double, but more than what you think you're going to need. Yeah. And you should be okay. And then
and I think pouring it and leaving it there, like when I'm done, I've got the three I need, make one more, leave it in the mold, and just put it up like that to help it hold its shape.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I wonder if it's how you stored it that it shrunk, like in the weather conditions.
It's sitting in a garage. You know, I've got an air conditioner and heaters, but I'm sure the temperature's all over the place out here.
Yeah, but leaving something in there would have probably been a good idea.
I think so. I think I probably could have made it thicker, and probably the last layer, because you actually work from the inside out. So I had a mirror and the original master sitting there, and I built the layers on top of it. So you work from the inside of the mold out, kind of upside down. I think if I had that last layer, built a little frame around it, and poured a thick layer in there, it would have been more flat too. So I found on a casting that size, I mean, it's like 8 by 11. It's a big casting. Not only did it shrink, but when I poured it, I had to brace up certain areas of it to keep it flat. Otherwise, I'd get a bow in the building. So couple of takeaways. Like I said, I don't think that that method is dead for me. But latex, you know, that was new technology 30 years ago, and we've got silicone now. That's one pour and you're done. So I may try that.
Yeah, I got some because I needed so many tunnel portals. Yeah, and I didn't want to have to buy all of them. They're Woodland Scenics portals. Most of them are the ones I bought. So I bought a couple, but then I thought, you know, I'm going to need another half dozen at least. And for the price of buying that, I can buy the mold making rubber, and I get mine from Micromark, and they've got different kinds. But now I can make as many of those as I want, and it doesn't shrink. It stays the same.
Is that silicone material? The mold making?
Sorry?
Is it silicone? What you're using?
It's a silicone. Yeah, it's a silicone rubber of some sort. It's a 2-part, and you mix it together. And of course, it's got to set for a little bit around your original. And then once that sets, and I just leave them overnight, so I make sure they set good. Once that rubber sets, and you just peel it off of your master mold, and then you can pour as many as you want after that.
Okay.
It works, and it's soft. Amazon. You know, it stays soft.
I haven't used this yet, but I think it's the same idea.
It's probably close to the same thing.
So what I'd like to do with it is make castings of plastic, because what I learned on those 2 buildings over there, those warehouses, was the plaster just takes paint and looks like brick. Like it really looks.
It does. Well, it does the same thing on rock and stuff. So
right.
And it's just hobby paint, and it takes it really well and looks really natural when you get finished with it.
That's right. So I've been thinking about some of those plastic modular pieces, whether DPM or Cornerstone or whatever, and making some silicone castings of those modular pieces, so that I could then use plaster but make it into whatever I want. So that's kind of where my head's going with, maybe the next leap on that mold making process.
Yeah, just make sure you use a release of some sort.
Okay.
A release agent of some sort. I've used vegetable spray. I've put 3-in-1 oil I've used.
Okay.
It'll all kind of work. But
Yeah.
I made some deep roundhouse pits, engine pits. And so those are a deep mold. And
Yeah.
so I really had to coat those down. And that's what I used the 3-in-1 oil on, so I could get those out, because otherwise you'll tear the mold before you get it out of the mold.
I was using Windex, 50-50 Windex and water, but I think it was more because there would be bubbles that would form. And so that acted as a surfactant to keep bubbles from forming on the surface of your casting. I didn't even think about the mold release piece. I guess maybe I got lucky.
Well, I did a bunch of little footings too. I made a carving of one out of balsa wood.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And made a casting with that. And so I can make little random stone or hand-hewn brick type footings for my wooden trestle and for other things I've got to do. And I had hundreds of those I need. So that was one of the first things I made a mold of.
That's really smart.
Worked really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to buy that stuff, you'd get 4 or 5 of them for, $20 or something. If you need a lot of them, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
So you hand carved the master out of balsa, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I did a couple of footings that way. And I think I went back and showed on one of my videos how I did the pit, because I had bought some that I was going to do, and they weren't going to fit in the roundhouse. So I had to modify them. And I showed how I modified them and what I used, and they worked out really well.
Oh, that's cool.
So, but yeah, molding or casting your own stuff like that in hydrocal, if you want an old brick look or an old rock look, you can't beat how it takes to paint. So much easier than plastic.
Yeah. What's your take on hydrocal versus plaster versus, is it necessary that it's hydrocal or plaster of Paris work?
No, plaster of Paris will work.
Okay.
I'm getting the stuff I've got now, I've been getting from Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
Just because it's convenient. You can buy an 8-pound bag for, $10 or whatever it is.
That's hydrocal?
They don't call it hydrocal. They call it a casting plaster.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure what it is.
Okay.
But it takes the paint just like the hydrocal that I got it.
Okay. Good tip. I was able to find plaster of Paris by the boatload at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. I ended up having to order hydrocal online. I did a little bit of poking around online, and I guess it's a harder plaster product, but I really didn't would plaster of Paris work too?
Well, some of the kits that you'll get, like Master Creations kits, when they came out, those are all dental stone, and it's a yellow cast to it.
Oh, interesting.
It's a little bit softer.
Okay.
Dental stone, so they could carve it easier. Okay. So they give you patching, they give you a little bit of the plaster in the dust form, so you can patch up cracks and stuff like that. But the hydrocal is much harder product. There's a company called the Plaster Guys. There's a company called the Plaster Guys. They're back east somewhere, and they're very affordable.
Okay.
I was getting like 30 pounds shipped to me for $35.
Oh, wow. That's not bad at all.
Yeah. Now, that's been a while back, but it's probably more than that now. Yeah. It's still not bad.
Pre-COVID, probably.
Yeah. They were on eBay, I think, is where I found them. But I ordered direct from them. It's same price either way. So.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, Dennis. What did you say?
I just said at that price, it was probably pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, when I bought it the original time, the first time it was. Yeah. I bought twice from them, but and they've got every kind of plaster you can think of. So you can go on their website and choose whatever kind you want. They've got dental stone all the way down, hydrocal, and different hardnesses and stuff.
I've got a question for John if we're through with this subject.
Sure.
You mentioned that you're working from left to right. what is your maybe your philosophy of when do you stop doing what you're doing here and move to the next section to the right? How far do you develop, one scene before you
Sure.
move on to the next? What's your philosophy there? Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Let me answer by way of example. So I'm going to come around behind, bring this up.
Awesome.
It'll shake for a second. Go higher so you can see the layout, and I'll come around behind it.
So real
All right.
quick, go ahead. I'll chime in later.
Go ahead,
Go
Jerry.
ahead.
No, I was just I put the link to Plaster Guys. Plaster Guys is only on eBay now, but go ahead.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Jerry,
Yeah.
All right.
and thank you for putting John's up there too earlier.
So I did this farm scene kind of right here. I did this area all the way to I don't know if you can see the pine trees on the frame there. There they are. So this
And
from
those
the
of you
pine
not
trees.
familiar with the channel, that is teddy bear fur.
That's right. So this is a piece of teddy bear fur that I painted and then added lots of other textures and materials to. There's hecky wild grass in there. There's, oh gosh, I should probably just pull all that stuff out. That's not the only thing here. There's
So
Mark
do you
Wahlberg stuff here.
John, do you like using that teddy bear fur?
I do. This is actually the second time I've done this for a field. I can show you the other scene, although it's not as well lit. The first time, this is the second one. There's another one kind of behind me in that scene that I just stitched in that's not connected by rail yet. But anyway, this whole area in front of the tracks was sort of one scene that I did. And I don't know, that's 3 or 4 feet long by 2 feet thick. The area behind the track, that's a corner there, but I coved the backdrop, so it's hard to tell. That's kind of a more wooded scene, so I did that separately. I don't know if you guys can see way back there very well.
Are your trees real?
The trees, some of those are.
Some of them are, huh?
Some of those are real, and some of them are in the backdrop.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
good.
it's a perfect blend of colors.
So this is these are all super trees, and then the backdrop is right here. Those are backdrop trees, and then the super trees are in front of it.
Right.
And then
good.
this is all static grass just along here. And then that, when you look at woods, too many times you see just green ground foam and then trees stuck right in it. But like woods don't have green floors. They have leaves and stuff. So here's a good example over here. That's real leaf material I ground up and glued down and then put the trees in.
Right.
And so here, it's a little bit open in front of it, so I did use static grass. But then behind that, it's about, I don't know, maybe 10 inches from this tree to the backdrop. So back there is all that leaf material as you get back into the shadow of the woods there.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that was a body of work, that wood scene. The field in front of it was a body of work. Then as I come over this way, the pine trees were sort of their own project. This track here is only an inch or two from the backdrop. And so what I did along here, this I can't pull it out, but it's furnace filter that I painted like a dark camo brown and then sprinkled on some materials and stuff to kind of blend it. Backdrop, furnace material to kind of blend it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it glued directly to the backdrop, or is it just on the ground in front of it?
No, sir. It's matte medium glued straight down to the ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was this little area with this little vignette of pine trees, just watching Boomer a little bit and some of the stuff he was doing with trees. I thought, there's no good loblolly pine trees around, and they're everywhere here in Virginia. So let me try my hand at making them. So I made those, kind of following some of Boomer's methods. So that was, I call that a body of work, that little vignette right there. Then as I keep going left to right still, then I've got this overpass scene. There was nothing on the layout going on right here. And this is the one place where I had to compromise a little bit. I wanted to have a 30-inch minimum radius for my layout. I had to go down to 27 on the main right there to make it work. But in the 50s, 40-foot cars, shorter engines, it's going to be
common.
fine.
Yeah.
but I thought, let me break this area up a little bit, kind of set like the illusion of distance between this open running that I just showed and getting into the yard over here. So I built this overpass.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like it is breaking up the scene, so
Yeah.
like it doesn't look obvious, but when you're looking from one point to another, it does kind of break the two scenes away from each other.
Yeah, and that was the idea. I wanted to kind of create the illusion of like, okay, now we're not in open running. Now we're getting
Right.
into the yard. So now we're not in farmland
Yeah.
anymore. There's some brick buildings starting to show up, and
Yeah, cool.
so the bridge is a Rick's kit. The road is scratch built. I cut that road out of foam and just painted it. Here you can see some of the furnace material. There's all kinds of textures and stuff mixed in here. There's furnace material. There's this material I found at Michael's that I think that they don't sell it anymore, but I got these rolls of this. I think it's meant for terrariums. But if I came in and dulled it down with Tamiya, the buff color kind of sprayed in there and a little of the earth colors, I could tone the really bright green down. And that's what this is right here. There's a whole mat of it in there. And instead of being $40 or $35 for a scenic mat, it was like $15. And so just with a little bit of airbrushing, I was able to just blend that right in.
Is the teddy bear fur cheap?
It was. I bought 2 or 3 square yards of it. It's pre-COVID, but 2 or 3 square yards of it for, I don't know, $25, $30 shipped.
So maybe it's a little bit more, but it's probably a fast way to get a scene done.
It absolutely is. And let me come back to that over here. So I don't know if you guys can see really well, but there's some stuff here, some stuff here, some stuff there, like all kinds of different textures added to it to really make it stand out. And then on the end over here, as you get into the pine trees, that's actually right from here over to hide the seam. I just came right in there with static grass. So that's static grass all through here.
Looks good.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can do
more
the
of that
same
furnace filter here, just for the overgrowth and stuff that you can see.
So John,
Yeah.
at what point do you decide to move from one section to the other? Do you consider like I'm at 80% complete with the scene that I want, I'm moving on to the next, or do you say I'm finished with this area, now it's time to move to the next, or is there a thought process at all?
I hear what you're saying now. Probably like 90-95% complete.
Okay.
Like maybe I'll come back and add another something somewhere, but by and large, I view that scene as complete.
Gotcha.
And then you can see where I stop, because at this point, I'm getting into structures and stuff, and so I've got that little the Jason Jensen model I'm building to match this is going to go here, and then that'll give me this whole area in front of the tracks. I'll have all the structures done, so I'll be ready to scenic that. Before I do that, I like to work back to front, so this structure is not attached to the layout. I can just lift it out and work behind it.
Right.
But now that I've got all these warehouses in, I can do all that scenery back there. So now I'm at a point with the structures complete. I can go kind of from where the train is parked, from back to front, and complete all of this. So again,
So-
like a 2 or 3 foot section I can now go after.
So then back to philosophy. Before you start the bench work, working around the rest of the garage, you plan on getting pretty much 90% of everything you're working on now will be complete before you begin your bench work for the rest?
The philosophy's kind of. So I'm going to pan a little bit more to the right, and you can see the end of the yard. So I'm going to be able to kind of do some track work over there, finish the yard, and stitch into the scene that's way over on the other side of the room there. So I've got some track work to do. And when I get tired of doing track work, I'll come over here and do scenery. And then I'll just go back and forth and keep moving left to right. I won't necessarily say I'm going to complete this scene before I lay any track over there.
Okay.
I'm going to do them kind of concurrently and move between them as I see fit. Just for my own interest.
That's
Gotcha.
very similar.
Okay.
That's very similar to how I do mine.
Yeah.
Change it
I'm
up.
just now to
Knock
the
it
point
forward.
to where I can maybe consider how I do that. It's one of those things that I'm still like, what do I do? Because I have options.
Yeah. And then all through here, right, as I get where this sort of here, this building, this could be a really big warehouse, like a 30, almost 3 foot long warehouse is going to go here. And then there's more industries behind the yard. So a third activity that will come in there as I'm working that way is structures. So it's a third thing to keep me going and keep interest flowing and creative juices moving and not get stale.
That's going to be really sweet.
This big warehouse that you're talking about putting in there, will it be like a background building or an actual kit?
It is it's a background kit, really. So this is
okay.
This is one of the castings I made, and I used it as a test bed for paints. And so these are all, the base color in all of these is terracotta, and I added white to this one. This is straight terracotta. This one had some burnt umber in it. This is actually the color I'm going to use. And then this one I had, it was a reddish, I wanted to say it was like French wine I mixed into it. So just cheap paints.
Far left.
Yes. And this one is, I think what I'm going to go with, and the doors also, all different colors.
Little different shades of greens, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with that one.
It's nice, and that's pretty a great tip for people to do little testers like that.
Oh yeah.
And not even on a building, just on a piece of styrene you could do it. Just to get ideas of what you like and what looks good for your scene. Just don't commit to the color that comes out of the bottle.
Yeah.
What's nice too is you were able to take a piece that you weren't going to be able to use otherwise.
Right. Yes.
To use for a test.
Yeah. And this
Not
one,
saying use that on your whole kit, but yeah.
That'll show up on camera. But you see how the doors kind of bow up a bit?
Yeah.
That's why this was a reject.
Right.
The other castings with the shrunk down windows, I may well use them somewhere else and just board up the windows with wood.
Yeah.
There's no reason the casting can't be used.
No,
I'm just not gonna. I've airbrushed all my. This is how many windows go on there. I'm not going to open up that many openings. I'm just not going to do it.
Don't blame you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just out of curiosity, did you attempt it with a Dremel?
I did. I did, and I made a mess of an opening, and I won't do that again.
Very low speed.
That's right. Well, I did do low speed. I won't. It was just.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. It was, and honestly, I was having to get down into the windowsill, and so that was just going to look weird anyway. Even if I did it perfectly, it would be a weird look if you look closely. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did the roundhouse. The roundhouse I did was a dental plaster kit, and there was a lot of enlarging windows and squaring up corners and that sort of thing to get it to where it is.
Yeah.
And that was a kit, so it came that way.
I assume I'll need to do a little bit of cleanup in the windows, but I don't need to be removing 1/8 of an inch of material from 48 windows on all 4 sides of the window.
Yeah.
So I was just showing the other end of beyond this little farm scene I did. As you work this way, this is now getting out into the peninsula, so you can see it just sort of ends. What I'll probably do is. This is the switch lead for the yard. It'll actually go way down to my left. And then the main line here. And there will start to be industries back here. So this is an area. This is the deep water terminal will actually come off the main right here. And there will be industries starting here, go all the way down this peninsula. And the peninsula will loop around and go back down the other side of this backdrop and then dead end over here. So there'll be a big harbor scene on the other side. There'll be a quarry on the end of the peninsula, and there's a very large grain elevator that actually exists along the river. So I took some liberty and moved some things around. But there is a grain elevator, big one, and I'll stick it right here. So that's kind of the vision as I work right to left.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. Temporarily, though, I'm probably just going to turn this into staging so I can bring some trains into the yard, operate the local industries of the yard.
That's what I'm doing, too.
Yeah.
John,
you get a nice a little higher up view of what the teddy bear field looks like.
John, you have all your industries pretty much planned out.
I do. I have a move the camera one more time. Hopefully your viewers don't get seasick. But I have my track plan
Just
fully,
in.
fully built. So I'm going to get it to a point where you can actually see it here. So I did this in any rail.
Oh, that's cool.
You can see that, but I mounted it to a piece of poster board.
That's a good idea.
Stand up. It won't stand up, so let's go top down.
Oh, that's okay.
All right. So here's the workbench and the little turn back that you saw. So this is what's completed. The overpass is right there. You can see where the yard's headed and all the different industries.
Oh, yeah.
There's the creek scene from the old layout I've stitched in. That was my first teddy bear field is right there. And then from here over, none of this is built except for this. This was my original shelf layout that was actually based on a track plan that was in Model Railroader back in, I want to say 2017. It was called Layout in a Weekend. And it's a little switching layout. At the time, I had it mounted with a little staging yard that was here, and this was right on the wall.
How big is that section?
It's
How
a little
big is
time
that?
saver.
Yeah, time saver. How big is that section?
It's right here. So there it
Say
is.
that looks a lot like what I've got.
Oh, that's it there.
Yeah. So this is.
Hang on, I swear I've seen that in a magazine somewhere. That exact scene.
Yeah. So this is there's the soap company I was talking about, and then the brewery down on the end. The brewery's actually lit up, and I've built the interior because I like beer stuff, and so I built all the tanks and did all that stuff. But
That's awesome.
this will
Does
eventually
this
get
dispense
stitched
shot
in.
glasses of beer?
That'll eventually get stitched into the layout as well. But that's my first. That was my first layout right there.
You learned a lot on that layout.
I sure did.
Yeah.
I look at it now, and there's some things I'd like to, redo.
Sure.
And I smashed up my my fuel dealer moving the layout. I dropped a 2x4 right on it. So
Oh no.
it was just a Walther's kit. I can easily replace it, but so that's what's actually the terminus of the Manchester branch, which dead ends, as you can see here. So there'll be this used to connect directly to the creek scene. So all this, because I'm now in the garage, I get all this extra space. So extra industries and stuff for Manchester. And so that'll dead end right there. And then here's the grain elevator I was talking about. So you've got the grain elevator. There's a huge industrial steel fabrication type thing. I'm calling it Williams Bridge Company because at the time, that's what the building had stenciled on it when I was driving past it on 95. I've recently joined the NMRA, and one of the local members here knows a lot about that building, and he watched the video where I showed this track plan, and so I've gotten a lot more information from him about what that actually was in the 50s. So I'll probably be changing it, but it'll still be a steel fabrication industry. Then you've got the quarry, and then on the other side of the backdrop, as it comes around, I'll have a little river scene here, and this is the Deepwater Terminal, and this is the actual track arrangement of the Deepwater Terminal. So there's 4 tracks, 2 warehouses on each side. Obviously, the real one's longer than this, but that is the layout of it. And in the real world, this track actually comes around and loops across the bottom and is kind of in front of the warehouses, and there's cranes and stuff all over the place. I've got to obviously compress it a little bit. So the Deepwater Terminal is this track here, and it's dead end. But the main comes around and goes into staging. So all my staging is on the back side of Manchester over there. And then the wall to the room is another 4 feet this way over here. So I'll have double-ended staging running trains north and south. They'll all come into the yard. And then from the yard, there'll be locals for the yard industries, the Manchester branch, the Deepwater branch. And then I'm also going to have all that interchange traffic with the ACL, the Southern, the CNO, et cetera. So that's just the concept.
Are you going to have a car float with your water scene?
I will not. No, they didn't have that here.
Okay.
They didn't have that.
John, what's the size of your layout going to be?
This is trying to think. I think it's 21 inches long. The garage is 21 by 21, and I came off 4 feet over here for like you get down into the garage this way, and there's a pedestrian door over there. So I left that alone. So 21 by 17 with this little knockout over here. I've got an industrial sink and a water heater, and of course how you get in the room over here.
You packed a lot into that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all with
And just
other than here, it's all 30-inch radius. Other than this curve right here.
so just for clarification, the staging yard is not visible from the aisle space in between Manchester and James River.
Correct. It will
Okay.
be on the back of the backdrop,
Gotcha.
which is actually how I had it built when it was upstairs. I just had this section. The room was nowhere near as long. And so I actually had off the creek scene, that little turnout right there, that used to go through a backdrop that came in at an angle between this section and this section, which were situated at a right angle. And so this is where my staging was before, just like this. This is just longer and has more tracks than what I had before.
Gotcha.
So that's the concept. What all I've got complete, I can run trains from right here to about right here. That's it.
That's not bad though.
No, it looks good.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Well thought out, a lot of room for running, a lot of room for switching.
Yeah. And I made a decision at one point to have the main line. I was going to cut it back through the backdrop over there and just go straight back to staging. But I thought, if I'm going to have all this entire peninsula scenic and stuff, I'm just going to run it parallel to the branch just to have more run through room,
Hey, John, Carolina Foothills Railroad, welcome to the show, by the way, wants to know how wide your peninsula is.
It is. That's a great question. Let's measure. This would be the same. That's right. 32 inches. 32 inches on each side. So the industries, if you think about the way the track plan was, they all come off the main and curve towards the backdrop. The track is closer to the edge. So I'm going to be switching stuff that's way back there, but the cut of cars, I won't have to reach all the way to the back. I'll be making the cuts closer to the edge where I can reach it.
Yeah, kind of like the delayed uncoupling magnets, where I don't know if you've ever used those before for Katy couplers. You pull over the magnet and then you back up slightly to give it a little slack, and the coupler would open, and then you'd pull forward, and then when you push back, they'd set in this way, and you could shove them back into place.
Gotcha.
That's how they were originally set up to do.
Yeah.
With the magnets and stuff, but
That's
but
cool.
yeah, everybody anymore just does them by hand. It's a lot easier.
Well, I've got I use bamboo skewers to do it.
Yeah.
It works fine.
The bamboo skewer is an awesome tool.
I use it for uncoupling, and they're also the perfect thickness to stick your trucks on them to weather your trucks. You can stick a bunch of trucks down on a skewer and airbrush it that way.
Yes, sir. I'm a fan of the skewer.
Yep.
Yes, you are.
Is the official pointer? That's not a skewer, though. That's thicker than a skewer.
Well, it began its life as a skewer, though.
Did it really?
Hey, I have a question real quick. Claude, you talked about the plaster guys. So just looking at their website, they have like hydrocal for model railroaders, dental stone, white stone. Is there an advantage of any one of them over the other?
Well, I know the dental stone's a little softer. That's so they can carve it. That's what they do. You used to do for dentures and stuff. They'd take a mold of your mouth, and then they'd actually hand carve those, and then make your dentures from that. Now they do it with 3D scanning,
Right?
But used to be that's what that was for, and so it gets hard, but it's not rock hard. It's much softer than a regular hydrocal or plaster of Paris. Those are harder materials.
You should get small containers of all of them and do a test.
Yeah. Well, like I say, the Master Creation kits that I bought, and I bought them because they have the cast brick walls and stuff, kind of like what John's got, and it takes the paint so much better.
Yeah.
Those look so much more real than plastic kits, I think.
I agree.
So that's why I like it, but I don't think it really matters which one you get so much, and they're pretty close in price.
Yeah, they are. They're a few dollars difference, and it's
but
just
hydrocal.
big
My
selection.
mountain is all hydrocal with paper towels. over cardboard.
Yeah,
So-
hydrocal is supposed to be lighter weight with more strength than plaster Paris.
Yeah, and the shell on my mountain is pretty thin anyway. There's been several places where I've almost stuck my finger through it, leaning over to do something.
Whoops.
But you could make it thicker than that if you want. All you can do is put more layers on it. But for casting, all my rock casts are all hydrocal, except for the ones I did yesterday are all the casting plaster from Hobby Lobby, and I'm not sure exactly what kind of plaster that is. They don't say on there. They just call it molding plaster or casting plaster.
They have a product. It's called Rock Hard, and it's supposed to be the strongest of all gypsums. And it's no different than the model railroad.
Oh, I thought you were going to. When you said rock hard, it brought to mind a product that's been around for a century, probably called Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty, and that stuff gets very hard. You can sand it with a sander, but you wouldn't want to try to mold with that.
Right.
It's made for patching, actually knot holes in wood and stuff like that. That's what it originally was made for, and it expands slightly as it dries, which is just opposite of most everything else. Most everything else shrinks.
Yeah.
Well, that product actually expands ever so slightly.
So another cool thing about these plaster guys, is they have different set times that you can get, like fast set, regular set.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool website if you guys are looking for it.
And they're very affordable. At least they were when I was getting it from them.
Well, 25 pounds of model railroad plaster is $19.
Yeah.
So,
So shipped to you, it's about 30 or so. And
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they were shipping on eBay. I was getting it for 25 pounds for $30 or something, $28 shipped.
Yeah.
So it was free shipping. And I'm going, how are they shipping that for that price?
yeah.
They got a
They
dump
evidently
truck
do.
load of the stuff. It cost
Yeah.
them nothing.
Yeah. But I bought two big bulks from them originally when I was doing the mountain stuff.
And that's the Plaster Guys is the website.
Yeah, the plaster guys
Yeah.
is what they're called. In fact,
I had a 3-pound pack I've just about depleted messing around with that building.
Write that down.
Jerry put let me see if I can put the link up there.
Here it goes again.
You can
I'll
put
go
it
back
up
and grab
again.
that.
Hey, Claude.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go, I was doing a little business with chat and want everybody to go check out H&H Express Model N-Scale Trains. He's going to be on the show. He sent you a email, Claude.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you're in the Netherlands, and so go check out his channel because we're going to have you on.
Nope, no, that's John Arthur's.
Now his name is I'll put his link up, but his name is Hi.
Hi, okay.
HAI.
There it is. There's the one I'm looking for. There's the Plaster Guys website. I found them through eBay, and they weren't any more expensive that way. Say again?
What was the other link that Steve was?
This is Hi's channel. I posted it in chat.
Yeah, go check it out. I was looking at it, and
Okay, we'll do.
So we got about, let's see how long we got here.
2 minutes by my
We
clock.
got 2 minutes. Oh, yeah, less than 2 minutes. So I don't know that we're going to take any more questions, but
So
anybody
Lynn,
wants to ask him right quick?
Lynn, you have to go to eBay. They have a link to their eBay store to buy their stuff. It's in there. You see it. eBay store is open. Okay, so go to their eBay store.
All righty. Well, we want to thank John for coming today, and
Appreciate it.
Thank you for
showing
having
us
me.
your layout. Enjoy that.
Fun to chat with you guys.
Yeah, and we will keep an eye out on your progress down the road.
Yeah, can't wait.
Lots to come.
And Shannon showed up. He looks like he's about to fall asleep.
Well, it is currently 3 a.m. where I am, so
I think he's been napping over there.
I think
Yeah.
that's
That's what I
quiet
thought.
heard him. I don't think I've ever heard you ever not talk before.
He's been pretty quiet. I think he's been.
I've been trying to talk, but every chance I get, it's like, oh, nah, they're talking over me. I'll just shut up.
Yeah,
Maybe I just put you to sleep.
Yeah.
normal.
Well, again, John, thanks for coming on the show. And
Thanks for having me.
Shannon, it was good to see you, regardless of whether you're talking or not.
Hey, Bill, if you're
it's all
watching,
good.
Bill,
Everybody
on the show.
have a good weekend and a good week, and we'll see
Have a
you
good
here
week.
next week.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming by.
Bye.
All right,
See you,
see you
everybody.
guys.
Oh, yeah.